That's me. How's your night going? Hope you've had a nice, relaxing weekend. Not bad, not bad. Was able to take a bit of a break, see a bit of the family, so that was nice. Nothing too big though. Just a small Thanksgiving. Did you do anything fun? Or get to see any family? Maybe your brother? Hey T-Daps, thanks for joining. I'm making teriyaki cauliflower soup because one of my friends on Discord was asking me about how to make it, so I thought I might as well make a live stream about it. Nice, that's always good to have quality time with the family to spend to do stuff like that. Yeah, teriyaki's great. The key with teriyaki, I think, is the consistency. A lot of times when I started off making it, it was too thin, so it just kind of had the same consistency as water or soy sauce, so it didn't stick to the meat or veggies very well. The key to keeping it viscous, like a syrup, is cornstarch. Add a little bit of cornstarch to the sauce at the end while it's heating up, mix it together, and it becomes nice and thick. However, a lot of experts that I've seen online talk about making sure that you mix the cornstarch with water, mix it well before adding it to the sauce, and then adding it with the mixture or a slurry. The slurry being the water and the cornstarch together. And it just makes it a more uniform sauce with a good consistency that doesn't have the taste of the cornstarch. So right now I'm just preparing some aromatics, simple stuff, ginger, garlic, and later on I'll be adding some toasted sesame seeds, but that's good for the aromatics for now. Now earlier, I did a test run of the teriyaki sauce, and just to show you what the consistency is supposed to look like. Less of a liquid and more like a syrupy kind of texture. That's because of the cornstarch. But yeah, let's see what we got here. Definitely makes sense. I like the teriyaki sauce for sure. Yeah, it's got to stick to the meat that way. But no meat this time, just cauliflower. This is leftover from what I have left in the fridge. Cauliflower might not be the most exciting vegetable, but I'll say this much. Cauliflower is really good for, what's the word I'm looking for? inflammation. There's a lot of good anti-inflammatory properties, meaning that it stops swelling. And I believe it has a lot of vitamin K as well. So I'm just cutting off any excess stems right now. And eventually these will go in a food processor just to kind of get them to the consistency I want. Kind of like rice grains almost in size. Now, if you're really adept with a kitchen knife, you can probably do this without a food processor, or optionally, if you have a grater, you can grate the cauliflower as well. Now, I'm only going to be making a single serving of this, so this should probably be enough. I'll put the rest of it back in a smaller bowl. T-Dab, so you're back in school now, right? How are classes, if you've started them yet at least? Hey Kier, thanks for stopping by. I'm making the teriyaki cauliflower soup like I was talking about. Or at least trying to. We'll see how it turns out. I'm sure it'll be fine. Just here for the cauliflower, I see how it is. This is kind of the consistency you're gonna want. Rice grains, essentially. Exactly, like cauliflower rice. Now, I was saying earlier, you can use a food processor. If you're confident with a knife, you can just kind of go in it and just go ham with it. You get a similar effect, but not nearly as fine. It's very coarse. You can use a grater or a food processor. I like the food processor just because it's always exact and fast. Cutting these into smaller pieces, it'll be a lot easier. Hey man, how's it going? Glad you could make it. I'm in the middle of ricing the cauliflower. I'll post the VOD on YouTube so you can go back and watch it if you want for anything, or you can just DM me for specifics about the recipe. Collies. I like the sound of that. Collies. I don't know why, but that sounds like a very British thing to say. Alright, who's gonna rice the collies tonight? That's more Australian sounding than anything. Which one of you is gonna rice the collies tonight? Don't judge me on my accent. I'm not. I'm not any kind of English. This bloke says he's gonna rice my collies. Nice and riced. Hey Volt, thanks for joining. Nice to see you. Done. Now for the aromatics. Here, Volp's an old friend. Whereas as old as half a year can be. Hello, old friend. Sounds like the Magneto and Charles Xavier in all the X-Men movies where they open up and they're playing chess. It's like, how are you doing, old friend? Meanwhile, they're like killing each other in other movies. Woo. This is my fine dice. Not very fine, but fast. Or faster than regular cut would be. Right, okay. Let's see if we can get you guys up here. Go. Check that out, huh? You don't need a fancy setup for that. Camera angle. Hello. Let's turn this on. Start with low heat. A little bit of olive oil in the pan. I'm just gonna put the ginger and garlic in there. And I just want these guys to get to know each other a little bit. I want it on low heat because I just want it to infuse its flavor into the oil a bit. I don't want it to burn. Just a little bit. Then I'm gonna save that for the teriyaki sauce later. This recipe is pretty simple. It's basically just rice and cauliflower, stir frying it to desired texture, making a teriyaki sauce, blending it together with the cauliflower, and then putting it in a soup base of your choice. I've already prepared ahead of time a bone broth. Which I've frozen in a solo cup. So I'll let that thaw out for now while I'm making this. Thanks a lot for sticking around, guys. Appreciate that. Okay. Good thing is that this should be good soon. I'm going to take half of these out and save them for the teriyaki sauce itself. The rest I'm gonna keep in there for the cauliflower. Just gonna get a little bit more oil. Stir that around a bit. Just gonna add a little bit of MSG to that. Right, now for the teriyaki sauce. Soy sauce in a bowl. Put in the remainder of the ginger and garlic. sweetener of your choice. Brown sugar. Oh, thanks, Drowsy. Sweetener of your choice. Brown sugar works the best. I prefer maple syrup, so I'm using some of that. Okay, so now we have a sweet element, a salty element. We need a sour element. And that's going to come in the form of rice wine vinegar, just a little bit. Perfect. Mix that up. Now you can add a bit of spice to this if you want. Hey man, how's it going? Nice to see you here, bro. We're making teriyaki cauliflower soup. Interesting, very cool. I'm a fan of it personally. I was talking to someone on Discord and they were asking about it, so I thought I might go live and do it. So for spice, I'll just add a little bit of sriracha. Alright. Just a little bit. Mix that up. Yeah, man, of course. No worries. Okay, now let's go with another saucepan for, let me see if I can move this over a little bit. Great, okay. Another saucepan for the sauce. That's just gonna be on medium-low heat for now. I just want the sugars to melt a little bit. Now separately back in this bowl, I'm going to make a small slurry of cornstarch and water to be added to the teriyaki sauce to thicken it up, to kind of give it that same consistency you might find in the restaurant. A little bit of cornstarch. A little bit of water. And I'll mix that up. Cornstarch is also really good, or potato starch for that matter, is really good when you try to make a good batter for fried chicken. If you do half cornstarch and half all-purpose flour, you end up with a really nice batter coating for fried chicken that makes the skin really, really crispy. So this will be used later. So this is where the cornstarch is going into. Just this small bowl with water as a slurry, which will be mixed into the sauce and a little bit to thicken it up. Bring the heat up a little bit higher on the cauliflower because I didn't forget about it. Now the only thing I really added to the cauliflower so far was the aromatics of the already sauteed ginger and garlic, but I also added a little bit of MSG just for a bit of umami flavor. And I don't want these to be too soft. I still want a little bit of a crunch in the soup if possible, but I want it to not be raw, if that makes sense. And for those who weren't here before, the soup is going to be this. So this is a bone broth that I prepared ahead of time that I froze into separate containers. I'll turn that up a little bit. Go. All right. Lower the heat on that again, and then see how this is going. Just want to bring the heat up a bit. There we go. Now that it's starting to boil, I'll bring it back down to a medium. And just to kind of give you an idea for those who weren't here before, normally when people make sauces, if they don't add a thickener, you'll end up with a sauce that can be, the same viscosity as water or soy sauce because they start with just regular plain liquid ingredients. But what the cornstarch is going to do is that it's going to give it a more viscous texture, so it drops more like barbecue sauce or a jam in that case. That's what I want, so it sticks to whatever I put it to. Also, that's just generally how the teriyaki sauce is presented in restaurants. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but for those of you who weren't here before, I think it's just nice to pick up on. So now that this is heated up, I'm going to add the slurry I was talking about earlier into the bowl. There we go. Mix it up well. Heat back on for the cauliflower. see if it's ready. No, it's still kind of raw. Yeah. So what's going to help with that is a thickening agent. A lot of times it'll be a starch, like potato starch or cornstarch, or if you work with a lot of stews in the United States, there are a few things you can do. You can use flour, just make sure that it doesn't burn and it's cooked through before it's fully emulsified in the mixture so that you don't get a weird floured taste when you start eating something with that mixture in it. Additionally, in the South, more so Louisiana, you can work with things like okra. Okra has a very interesting effect on food where the slimy enzymes, or mucus I should say, in the okra can give a interesting thickening agent to a lot of foods like gumbo, where instead of it being thick like a sauce, it's more stringy like mucus, or snot in a sense, which is kind of gross, but that's one of the ways you can thicken up something like a gumbo, just not for this sauce specifically. So if we look here, this is already thickened up pretty well so far. And you can tell that it's thickened up because if you scrape the bottom of the pan, you see how there's like a trail that's left over afterwards? That's the viscosity of the liquid showing that it's not receding immediately. If this was a soy sauce by itself, you wouldn't even see that. I'll let this go for a little bit longer and then put it in a bowl. Heat back on the cauliflower. I don't need to add salt because I'm already gonna have soy sauce, so that'd be a lot of sodium right there. There we go. Back down to a medium. All right. Get that going for a little bit. All right, now you'll see it a little bit better now. Now it's pretty thick to what I want it to be. Turn it off and I'll put this in a separate bowl. Lower that a bit. Dry out the pan. And here, in that empty pan, I'm gonna add in some sesame seeds. Now the sesame seeds, when they're toasted, give a nice, slight nutty flavor to the sauce, as well as the dish altogether. Now, these are fairly fragile and can burn easily. The goal is not to have them burn, but to have them toasted. So what does that mean exactly? All I really want is to see a slight amount of color and a smell. No oil is needed, but if you want to add oil, that works as well, because the oil is going to have the flavor of the toasted sesames infused in it, although it won't be quite the same flavor as you would get from just toasting it dry. Cauliflower is starting to brown just a little bit, so that's a good sign to take them off the heat fairly soon, before we add the sauce at least. Give it another taste, see if it's ready texture-wise. Yeah, I'd say so. Turn that off the heat. Not quite yet. All right. Yeah, interestingly enough, the sesame seeds do have a little bit more to them. I haven't personally noticed them as sweet, but that's an interesting observation. I'll have to, look into that more to see if it's maybe the type of sesame seeds I'm using or the process of how I use them, I guess. Interesting. Thanks for sharing. All right. Fairly toasted. Some of them look like they're starting to brown slightly, so then I'm gonna add it to the teriyaki sauce here. Now, you don't have to add sesame seeds to your teriyaki sauce. I just think it works well with the visual aesthetic. Let me see if I can get a better angle of this for you guys. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Perfect. Okay, now heat on low. Now I'm gonna add the teriyaki sauce to the cauliflower. Mix it in, incorporate it well, and boom, you got yourself teriyaki cauliflower rice. Heat up just a little bit so it mixes well. Now you can already have this and serve it, but I like to go one step further and have it as a soup. Mix that well. Heat that up a little bit. Oh, sorry about that, Kier. Yeah, I don't know why that didn't happen. I just went to live from Twitch directly, and it got rid of the problem. But all you really missed is that I made the teriyaki sauce. If you're curious about how to make it at all, I'll post the VOD on YouTube, or you can DM me for any specifics if you have any questions. Yeah, so the teriyaki sauce with the cauliflower rice, you can have it by itself. It's pretty good. I like to have it in a soup though, so just kind of warming this up with my hands, and hopefully I can drop it in here. There we go. Look at that. That is concentrated flavor from like 7 vegetables, many drumsticks, and a few beef bones. Yes. Any broth works well. Store-bought, homemade, veggie, non-veggie, anything works well with it. And in fact, besides the bone broth that I made, everything else is essentially vegan. I even skipped honey on the sweetener step just for that reason. And the sweetener I used was maple syrup, but brown sugar is the better option. A little bit in there, and keep it going. Actually, I'm not sure if I can upload the VOD because the first half of this was removed. So I guess I can upload both of them together and just mix it together, or put them together into one video on iMovie or something. That'll work well. This last step is literally just adding the broth and mixing it in well enough and then serving. And I'm doing this just because I don't want to use a microwave right now. Which you totally can do. Now, I could have used a pot, but I didn't want to dirty another appliance. So you can use a pot if you want, just so it's easier when it comes to serving. Kira, I forget, are you vegan or vegetarian at all? I feel like you might have talked about that on one of your streams before. Or pescatarian? Vegetarian, got it, okay. I was talking with a friend a few weeks ago about our favorite type of ingredient, like meat, veggie, fruit, carb, grain, that sort of thing, and we were wondering, what's our favorite? And I said vegetable because there's such a large variety and they all have a variety of different textures and flavors that can be used in different ways. Fruits are great, but I think the all-encompassing idea of sweet is given to almost all fruits, which makes taste-wise them seem less of a variety than vegetables do. Not to mention they're really healthy. But what's your favorite? Meat, oh, not meat, vegetable, fruit, or grain. And that goes for everyone in chat. Or you can just message what your favorite meal is. Maybe it'll give me some ideas of what to make next. Haven't had it since 2020, and a bit of turkey for 2021, and some Genoa salami over, yeah. Oh man, yeah. That's one reason why I probably won't go vegetarian. I love me some salami. It's the good stuff. Just not all that good for you. Don't get me wrong, meat is delicious, but I'm with you, vegetables and meat are still. Yeah. Agreed. What's your favorite veggie? Don't worry, Vault. Meat was definitely an option. All right, that's good. Pork in general is the only thing that doesn't have a viable substitute I found. Meat. Really good with sausages. Delicious beef, ground salami is heaven, yeah. I'm wondering pork. That's a tough one for sure. I've been experimenting with mushrooms a lot to kind of get the same taste of pork, or at least dishes that use pork, like char siu pork, or there's marinated pork. Yeah. Bacon and salami are very hard. Although, you can kind of make like a half-assed bacon with ribbon strips of things like carrots and parsnip, if you get the spices right at least. There we go, and that's the last of the broth. Mix that up well. And I'll put it back in this bowl, at least for now, for storage purposes. Get this here, it's made in Canada. Yeah, it's definitely not the same as a proper thing, strip of bacon. Hey, Salty Pancakes, it's good to see you, man. Yeah, very cool, right? It almost looks like it could be like the petals of a flower with the bumps here. All right, guys. This is what the final product looks like. Not too bad, if I do say so myself. I'm just gonna add a little bit of something. Right here I have my rosemary plant. And unfortunately, with winter coming, this thing doesn't do very well. And if you look at the bottom, it's starting to die a bit, so it's important that we use what we have. So I'll just take a few leaves here and there. Rosemary is like my favorite herb. Goes great with almost anything, in my opinion. It's just not as good of a garnish as like a parsley or a cilantro. And I haven't found that it works well in like a fresh taco. But anything that requires a lot of heat, it's good. Just a few leaves. Take them up. And there we go. Cauliflower, teriyaki cauliflower soup.